All right, Sabrina.
Yep, that's me.
Sabrina, where'd you grow up? Where are you from?
I'm from Fenton, Missouri. I grew up in like this. We always called it the Big White House. Like there's a cul-de-sac, and we were the Big White House. So I always would play with the neighborhood kids, and I was the girl that lived in the White House, and I thought I was pretty cool for that.
Tell me about your childhood.
um, it was rough. My mom was a addict. She was addicted mostly to heroin or downers and all that. And my father was never really in the picture for a minute. I saw him a lot when I was, I don't know, like 3 to 10 maybe, on the weekends. But he was really abusive, mentally and physically and sexually abusive. So he was just, I hated him. My mom and my grandma, we lived in the Big White House, and my mom was always in trouble, in and out of drugs, in and out of prison, in and out of trouble. My grandma was the one who raised me, so it was wild. I mean, it was just wild, a wild childhood.
What kind of teenager were you?
Disruptive, to say the least. I was. So when I was growing up, like into the teenage years, like, well, first, when I was 8 through 14, my mom would take me to truck stops, and she would, like, I guess, traffic me to people for money or drugs. Whichever one she could get to get drugs. So
Two truckers?
yeah. That was a very dark time. So because of this, I was just very disruptive throughout high school. I didn't really care about anything. I still to this day couldn't tell you one piece of paper I did and turned it in for homework. So it was, it took a toll on me, and it was just a lot, and my grandma passed away when I was 16. My grandma passed away when I was 16, and then my mom passed away when I was 17. I was in and out of some homes. I went to my uncle's at this point. I went to, my uncle didn't want to have me there anymore at his house because I had a cousin and she was having nightmares because I was severely cutting myself a lot. That was kind of my escape for a while, was just hurting myself. I didn't think this would be that hard.
To talk about?
Yeah, I'm really open about it, but a new place, I guess, new people, or
You can take it easy.
yeah.
You had friends as a kid?
Yeah. I actually was pretty well known throughout everything. I had a friend basically in every clique. So I had one friend in the popular girls, I had one friend in the skater guys, I had one friend, in this and this, like, so I had kind of friends all over. So I adapted to like whoever I was around.
Were any of them going through similar things?
Not particularly. I know one of my best friends, she was dropping out as soon as I was, because after my mom passed, I just gave up. I was just like, screw it. And like, as much as bad as my mom did, with the abuse and with the drugs and with the truckers, like, she's still my mom, I still loved her. And, but I never told, like, I've never told anyone. This is one of the reasons why, like, reached out to you because I was like, this is something that I've never really talked about except outside of like therapy and stuff. You know, people don't know these things, and none of these kids that I was friends with really even knew. My friend thought my mom was like the best lady in the world because she was really good at putting on that front. And so none of my friends really knew what was going on, and no one really like, they had problems like their parents divorced, which, you know, I understand everyone goes through trauma differently and everybody goes through and deals with it differently. But I never felt in a way that it was like relatable in a sense, just because like I felt I would hear these stories and I would think parents getting divorced was normal, or not normal, but like I was like, damn, like I wish my parents just got divorced, you know, but my dad like attacked my mom and, you know, and abused me, and then my mom doesn't even know she's a mom half the time. So yeah, it didn't really.
So there was sexual abuse with your dad too
Yeah.
when you were young?
Yeah. I can't really remember too much. I just knew there was like a game, and I went through therapy and realized what was going on at a later age. Had to go through therapy again. And yeah. And what's crazy is he has 2 daughters. I have 2 other sisters on my dad's side. Don't barely talk to them, but he raves all about them, and he only says he has 2 daughters, which is crazy to me. And I'm like, how can you do that to me and then just say, okay, like I'm done with you, bye? Like, I don't know, but yeah, he was a angry man.
Has therapy helped you?
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to forgive some of the things that your parents are doing, but
Yeah.
or did.
Absolutely. It definitely is still a struggle, especially with my mom. I'll go through periods of time where I forgive her, and I'm very, you know, I accept what happened. But then like just the other day, I was like super mad at her. I was like, why the hell did you do this? Why did you do all these things and then choose drugs over me and die? You know, like I was just like, what the hell, you know? So my dad though is harder to forgive. But a lot of the time growing up, I didn't really think about him at all. So I just had this undealt trauma with my dad until recently. And now I'm starting to figure out like, okay, this is his choice. What he has done nothing against, or shows nothing against my character. It shows what he's done. Like I'm worthy, I'm loved, you know, all the hoopla with that. So, but therapy has helped a lot with just learning how to cope with it more than anything. Especially my service dog too. Like he helps tremendously. The first one helped tremendously too. So yeah.
Your dogs are great like that, aren't they?
Oh, I love them. So plots. I train dogs. Like I train pet dogs because I'm on disability. Like I can't do too much because of the seizures and everything. So like dogs are literally all I do. Like I train them. I work my own. I have 2 other dogs that I compete in sports with, and they give me a sense of peace. So it makes me feel like I'm capable of doing something, because throughout my whole life I've had all these things happen, like all these traumas from my parents, all these traumas from going back and forth between houses, trying to figure out, like when my mom died, no one knew where I was going. I remember they kept me in school and they're like, we don't know where this girl's going. Like, do we just call foster care? Whatever. They called my dad. My dad's like, well, yeah, send her to foster care. And then my grandparents found out, called the school, and they're like, hell no, we're going to take her. And this was my dad's side. This was my dad's parents. And so I lived with them, but I always felt like I was just pushed and dragged and just pulled back and forth between wherever, floating around, and like the dogs and my horses.
They give you like stability and consistency.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
a dog will always be there for you.
Exactly. Yeah, they will. And they depend on me and I depend on them. And it's like, he's licking his foot right now. I can count on them because they have to count on me too. And I like that. I like that. There's always some sort of like, I know they're not gonna, the worst they can do is bite me. So, and they never do. But yeah, you're a good boy. But after high school, I met a guy that I got really heavily into drugs with. So I became the worst thing that I hated, which was an addict. I'm 4 years sober, clean now, but I did everything you could think of. Like Xanax was a big one for a while, especially after my mom died. Like all I wanted to do is just Xanax. I was just like, this is something that can make me sleep forever. Like this is awesome. And then that became a really bad problem to where I overdosed. And so after that, I lived with this guy and he just, I feel like my brain's rotting right now. But he just like, he was a dealer, so he did everything as well. And so after that overdose, he was like, well, I'm going to leave you if you don't stop. And of course, me being the traumatized soul I am, I was like, all right, I'll do anything so you don't leave me. And instead of just quitting drugs altogether because he was a dealer, I just did other drugs. So I did, acid, MDMA, coke, Percocet. Anything but like meth or heroin. Heroin was a big no-no. Everything else was fine, but the one that my mom did, big no-no. And it lasted for about like 6 years. Me and him just in his grandma's basement. Can you believe that? Me and him just in his grandma's basement, him selling, myself just doing the drugs as well. And there was a point in time where I remember like I was just so out of it. And I looked in the mirror and I was like, this is not who I am. Like, who is this, you know? And I never thought I'd get out. There were so many times where I was like, I'm going to die tonight and I'm okay with that. Like, I remember I would do this giant line of coke and I would just lay back and I'd feel my heartbeat. Ooh. And I'd just be like, you know, I'm probably going to die. I'm probably going to have a heart attack and die, but it's okay because this is nice. I feel good. I remember I couldn't breathe and all this. And oh my gosh, like it was just so insane to me. Like that was my life at some point, where I lived basically in a trap house. So eventually I got out of that phase of my life. The guy was super abusive. What got me out though was I got pregnant with twins. First time something stuck, I had twins. And I was really excited because one of the biggest goals, I guess, or dreams would be to be a better mother than my mother was to me. But unfortunately, the ex held a gun to me and was like, you need to get rid of them right now or I'm going to kill you and them on the spot. Like, there's no way this is happening. So we drove to Illinois, and I remember there was protesters outside, and I was just so scared. I was like, how the hell am I supposed to do this? And set it up, all that. A couple days later, we went back. Same thing, protesters everywhere. And I was afraid of like the traditional way of abortions. So I got the pills. You just stick them up there and it gets rid of everything. And he dropped me off at my friend's house, who partied all night long while I sat in the bathroom and passed them both. And that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done, because I just felt so alone, and I felt so like violated. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm pro-choice all the way, but that wasn't my choice. This guy was feeding me drugs to literally, because he didn't want to hear me talk about, hey, like, we're really bad in our relationship. Can we please talk about it? No, here's drugs, or here's Xanax, or here's Percocet. Shut up and leave me alone while I play video games. I was like, okay, whatever, And I was in my right state of mind, and he had a hold on me like no other. And, if I had the choice to go back, I'd like to think I'd do something differently. And I'd like to think that I would have kept him. But I wasn't in the right state of mind, so I don't think I could have. I don't think even if I tried, I would have picked, because at that point I was just in survival mode, and I just had to do what I had to do to either stay where I was or what. But
how old are you now?
I'm 25.
Yeah, you're still young.
Yeah. This happened when I was 21, so I like to think I'm a lot older, though. The back pain reminds me of that.
You got away from him?
Yeah. I got away from him after that. It was ugly, trying to tear apart. I feel like it was like a scab, almost, like that just wouldn't come out, and it hurt, but I got away. But after that was such a rough time in my life, because I had a brain tumor. Right as I was trying to pull away from him, I found out. I ride horses. So I rode a horse. She bucked me off. My friend rushed me to the ambulance because I was knocked out. She dragged me apparently 20 feet. I don't remember. But she dragged me a good ways. I was knocked out. Wasn't making sense, so my friend took me to the hospital. They did a MRI, CAT scan, and they were like, we found something. You need to go to our specialist. So it was benign, but it was close to being a butterfly tumor. So it was right here. And butterfly tumor is where it is touching both sides of the brain. So it wasn't close to it, but it was enough to where the doctors were like, hey, we need to do something right now. Like, and I thought all my symptoms, so I was having seizures, I was having vision blurry, migraines like crazy, and I never thought anything of it because I've had concussions like crazy because I ride horses. So I was just like, it's fine, but I had a tumor. And so after all that happened with the boyfriend, I went in an even darker place, and there was a part of me where I was just like, I don't even want to like do this surgery. I don't want to get this fixed. I don't want to do any of this. Like, I was just like, I'm done. But my grandpa, God bless his soul, I love him to death. He kind of like put me up or what's that word? He just got on to me, and he was like, you're getting this freaking done. Like, what are you out of your mind? I know your mind's a little broken right now, but so all that though was a long and exhausting process. And now, like, things are good. I still have, obviously, some side effects from the brain tumor. I have seizures every now and then, but migraines all the time. But
what does a service dog do for you?
So he is trained to mitigate my disability. So right now he can tell I'm a little stressed, so he's letting me know, like, hey, good boy. Because I am nervous, so. Platz. I'm okay. You're done. Good boy.
But when you, what would you say you have a service dog for, if you said it really simply?
Oh, I have it for my mental health. So I was diagnosed with schizoaffective. So that's, in the simplest of terms, a personality disorder with schizo-type symptoms. So originally they were like BPD.
But your behavior will look like what?
My behavior, so if I'm really bad, if I'm not keeping myself in check, I see things that aren't there. I hear things a lot. One of my main hallucinations would be like this giant eyeball, and it would just follow me everywhere. It would follow me, and I'd be walking, and I would always look behind my back. Or there was this one time when I was living on my own where I believed that I was living with somebody for 6 months. I truly believed I lived with somebody for 6 months, and that they were this is gonna make me sound crazy. But we're all kind of crazy, I guess. But stuff like that, delusions, while also me being surrounded by the fear of abandonment and being left alone. So I think that's why a lot of my hallucinations in the past were people following me, or people, or I'd see my mom. That was a big one where I'd be talking to her, and then she would just say hey, here I am, I'm leaving, bye. Obviously in a little more dramatic sense of the term, but so he is trained to specifically seek that out. So if I'm having a hallucination, he is trained to, if I'm go check that out, that's his command. Head. If I'm trained, or if he's trained, or if I say, go check that out, he will go over there if there is somebody. If there's not, he'll just ignore it. He'll just be like, you're crazy, check yourself. The seizures, he alerts me before I have a seizure. So a lot of the time the seizures are caused by immense stress. And like I told you, there's a chemical in your saliva that's released when you're stressed, and it is called cortisol. And he was trained specifically to seek out that scent. And so every time that is heightened in my saliva or my scent or sweat, he will alert me by either putting his head on me, putting his paw on me, and if he really needs to be persistent, so if I'm really bad mentally, because right now I'm in a very good place, I can decipher what's delusion, what's not, what's emotion, what's reality, but if he needs to be persistent, he'll jump on me. He'll jump on me and basically be sit down, chill out, pet me. So the petting is more of a grounding thing, because sometimes I can get really caught in my head with the delusion. So if I'm grounded back to reality, it helps a lot. And I mean, there's service dogs for everything, but I don't think I'd function as well as I am today without him, or the retired one. But he's living his pet life. So
things are much better for you now.
Yeah.
How do you think you kind of recovered from all this childhood trauma?
I have no idea.
Some of it adult trauma too.
I have no idea. I really don't. I think about it all day. I sit on 4 point something acres in a beautiful house that looks like a fairy cottage with my horses, with my dogs, I have a Maine Coon. Like I like sit here on my front porch and I'm like, how the hell did this happen? I was homeless, living in a van at some point, doing cocaine off the steering wheel. Like, what the hell happened? You know, like I'm so grateful and so thankful that I got to this point. And honestly, like, I don't know. I think a lot of it was just me trying to like not be like my mom and not in putting myself in those shoes of being my mom, like being the drug addict, being the homeless person, getting in trouble, like seeing her struggle from not just a outsider perspective, I think helped, because I was like, oh, Platz. I was like, oh, like, I understand kind of why my mom chose drugs a lot of the time, because there was times where I was choosing it over everything. You know, I have a sister that's out of, on my mom's side, and I barely saw her. And she was in like this adoptive foster family, and she lost everything. She was younger, so she didn't process a lot of the same things, but I wanted to be better for her, mostly. I wanted to be better because the excruciating emotional and physical pain from being an addict was just not worth it to me. I was like, I can't end up like my mom. I can't die at 36. I just can't do it. And it took me a while. You know, like I said, I was homeless in a van. I lived in Southside St. Louis, which, if anyone knows how St. Louis is, it's not gunshots are your lullaby. Especially if it's spring, like gets warmer, everyone's coming out. I lived with like roaches and bed bugs, and I hated that. And I was like, I don't want to do this. I want to live on a farm. Like, I want animals. Like, I don't.
Maybe nature and animals help you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my grandmother, on my dad's side, my grandpa, the grandparents that took me in after my mom passed, they were divorced. They divorced. And so my grandma, oh my God, how do I explain this? Okay. My dad was originally adopted from El Salvador. He was 10 years old, running in the jungle with an AK during the Civil War, and then the orphanage got him, and they're like, all right, you're going to America. So those grandparents got divorced. And so throughout my whole childhood, I had this escape, which was my grandma's. And she has a beautiful 60-acre property. And she's the one that got me into horses and dogs and all that. She would rescue greyhounds from the racetrack and rescue horses. And I'd go there every other weekend for a little bit. And then it got scarcer a little bit as more of our family dynamic got more dysfunctional. I don't think, though, I would have made it without that woman. Like, I owe her a lot for who I am today, what I believe, what I do, like my dog training, my dog competing, like my horses, like I owe her that. And that was like my saving grace through everything. Like, through everything, even today. It's just, I don't think if I had that outlet or that escape, and I don't think if I had animals there, I think I would have, I would have been dead. And that sounds so dramatic, but I mean, I definitely would have, because they're everything.
All right, Sabrina, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mark.
I wish you lots of luck
Thank you.
from here on out. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.